Hello, Project Artemis viewers. It's Ihana back with another video. Today we're going to be going over my recent top 4 finish at the Full Grip Games Mega Evolution Gym Leader Challenge 3K event. So let's get right into it.
Hi folks, Sable here from Project Artemis. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to our sponsor Heavy Play for sponsoring the team and showcase off a few of their wonderful products that they make. Starting off, we have their Deck Box RFG Max. This is a wonderful little magnetic deck box, flip alcove with a picture display for you to showcase your favorite card. We also have their Dice Box RFG. What's nice about this is it magnetizes to itself, so that is not moving. You don't have to worry about like accidentally knocking over your dice tray or anything. It also magnetizes to deck box. Their full system is entirely magnetic, so you can dice box to dice box, deck box to deck box, deck box to dice box here. And even going one step further, they have a foldable magnetized playmat. So instead of rolling things up, this folds up nice and flat. You can throw it in your backpack real easy. And then your dice box also will magnetize to it. Keep your dice box on there. Keep it on your playmat nice and flat there in the corner. And that thing is not moving. Once again, we just want to say thank you to Heavy Play. If you're interested in any of the products seen here, please go to heavyplay.com/Artemis or use code Artemis at checkout for 10% off your order. They have red, blue, black, white, gray, green, purple, a whole bevy of colors in their entire suite for you to use to your heart's content. We really do recommend you checking out their product. Anyway, back to the video.
So preparing for this event, I've been on the Psychic type for like 2 years at this point. I love it. I feel like it's a very versatile type, and depending on how you build your list, the deck can really deal with a lot of tricks that other types are trying to throw at it. Recently, if you read my article on our Metafy, I was on a list featuring the Celebrations Mew, which Mysterious Tale would help you find items off the top of your deck. And the list was built around that ability to really get fast, consistent starts with your items. It also featured Monkey Dory and Crispin to get your dark energy in play. And I really liked the synergy between Giratina placing damage on your own Pokemon and Monkey Dory moving it back off for you. But I was running into some consistency problems personally with these handful of cards. So we switched to a Iron Boulder based list, which uses the adjusted horn attack, doing 170 damage for 2 energy, very efficient. Only downside is only condition is you have to match your hand size with your opponent. Which, with our handful of abilities that let us draw cards and manipulate our hand size, I really didn't find it that hard to do, and over the course of the tournament, it was definitely my most used attack. I figured for this Mega Evolutions event, with the new cards giving particularly the fighting type a lot of boost. Usually fighting type is not a prominent type in Gym Leader Challenge because of its lack of draw power, but lo and behold, in Mega Evolutions we got some much needed draw power for the fighting type with the Lunatone and Soul Rock combo. The Soul Rock also is a really cheap one fighting for 70 damage hitter, putting your little guys in Gym Leader Challenge in great danger. So I figured this type would see a lot more play this weekend. Figured that it couldn't hurt to keep on my Psychic type to hit weakness on those big fighting Pokemon. And if the fighting decks were going to be popular, hey, maybe the Darkness type that gives Psychic difficulty would be much fewer and farther between. Aside from my life not having a whole ton of testing time to put towards the event and also getting ready for Full Grip Standard, I just stuck with the list I knew, and we'll see how it went. So here we'll see my list I ran. Some differences from the Metafy article. We'll see that we're back on the Natu package. So Blindside Natu, you might have heard. The Delta trait Natu lets you take an extra surprise card when the Natu takes a knockout, so that can be paired with any of the technical machine attacks. For instance, Blindside to snipe any damaged Pokemon for 100, and Crisis Punch to do a big 280 damage at the end of the game. Didn't use Crisis Punch a whole lot, but figured if I ever hit like a giant Wailord or a giant Torterra, I needed to take it out at the end of the game. Crisis Punch was a good backup nuke button. Otherwise, this is fairly similar. I mean, we have a little bit less reliance on the item cards due to not running Celebrations Mew. Instead, we have a different Mew that copies basic attackers on your bench and also has free retreat, which is big. We're not running Floatstone, just U-turn board, since we can reuse U-turn board. And overall, we have a high supporter count, including Iono, Marnie, and Cynthia and Colress to shuffle our hands back into the deck and try to match our hand size with our opponent. I also have Lieutenant Surge again. I missed him too much. Very insane card if you're trying to make a comeback. Let you essentially play an extra supporter every turn. And we got the new Lily's Determination from the Mega Evolution set. Great for setting up, great for mid-game shuffle draw. Lily was awesome. Other than that, your fairly standard GLC cards. We have the Devolution Spray to get from Xatu down to Natu, if we're trying to blindside surprise. Yeah, other than that, that's the list. Oh, we put Wobbuffet in the night before. Wobbuffet was a great inclusion, ended up being for the tournament. Round 1, I versed a colorless deck. Colorless as an archetype got a big boost with the Journey Together set, bringing us the Hops package, where Hops Cramorant and Hops Snorlax, along with the Hops Tool card, lets you hit huge damage really cheap. So even if you disrupt them, they're still hitting hard and hitting cheap. So, my opponent got off to a great start. My start was a little slower, but after my opponent drew a bunch of cards between Dodrio, Cincino, Bibarel, and Oranguru, they were drawing so many cards. I hit them with the Parallel City Stadium to limit their bench size down to 3. They got rid of some of their draw power there, and that allowed me to catch my breath and get something together. My opponent took some prizes. I took some prizes. My opponent hits me with the Hops Cramorant. With the powerful colorless energy, adding 20 damage from the base 120 of the Cramorant, that did 140 damage to knock out my poor Iron Boulder. Without too much of a board established, I swung back at it with Mimikyu copycatted, and my opponent revived the Cramorant and swung with it again. I was back and forth. I was a little bit behind. Hand Disruption helped, pulled ahead, and then since the Dodrio's ability damages it to draw cards, it set me up perfectly for an easy last 2 prize take with the Natu and Blindside. So we were able to close that one out. Round 2, we had a grass type, and my opponent only opened the Badoo and this Zarude here. They got the coin flip, so they chose to go second, and they had an energy and was able to get Zarude in the active, but they did not use Pack Call to search for 3 grass Pokemon. I had started this Wobbuffet, and Wobbuffet's ability is when it's active, it turns off everyone else's abilities except for the Psychic type. I asked my opponent this after the game why they didn't use the Pack Call, and I don't know. They said they figured they wouldn't be able to use the Grass's Pokemon's abilities under the Wobbuffet to evolve, and I was like, I was confused. I didn't get their line, but instead of evolving. Or at least getting some guys out, because they did not find any other guys for the rest of the short game. While Wobbuffet sat active, my opponent just manually attached to the Zarude. After 3 turns, hit me with a huge repeated whip. I was just sitting there, my hand wasn't that good, it was full of comeback cards. But as soon as they knocked out Wobbuffet, I just happened to have Lieutenant Surge, teammates, and a counter energy in my hand, so I teammates for Raihan, got another energy, evolved a couple guys. I got 5 energy in play and just blew up his Zarude with Latios. And they didn't really have anything else going on, so they scooped it up after. Round 3, we hit a fighting type. Yippee! I love type advantage. We both kind of had scuffed starts on this one. Scuffed was my word of the weekend, based on how weird the draws were going. But my opponent started just the Knackley and Okidogi. My start was a little slow and awkward. I don't know, my head was not in the game for this match, so once they put that focus sash on the Okidogi to make it not one-shottable, what I should have done is used Distortion Door to ping 1 damage onto the Okidogi while it was on the bench, but I missed that somehow, and I just ended up Guzmaing to switch the Garganackle and the Okidogi. I used Iron Boulder to take out the Garganackle and ping the Okidogi on the bench, and then the next turn I used Giratina to knock out the Okidogi. Otherwise, I had too many cards in my hand and was doing too many actions. I forgot to attach my active 1 turn, so I just passed. But even with blatant misplays, the fighting matchup was still pretty good, so I was able to keep taking out the threats as my opponent put them out, and we won that game. Round 4, I hit the Cursed Kiss Psychic deck, basically Dusknoir and Togekiss. This, I felt on the back foot from the start with this one, so my opponent won the coin flip, made me go first. I had a beautiful hand of energy, ways to get my guys, and the TM Evolution to evolve them, but after I attach pass to my active, they hit me with a Judge, and I draw into absolutely nothing off the Judge, and was just on the complete back foot the whole time after that. They got the Togekiss up, hit heads on the Wonderkiss, of course, to take an extra prize. I figured I wasn't coming back from a 2 or 3 prize deficit like that, but they got the Dusknoir back out, and they just took their last 2 prizes in one swoop. Feels bad, but it happens. Alright, I was a little, admittedly, a little bit tilted after that game, and we hit a Dragon type next. Bad memories from my last full grip event where I had to go first turn 1. I was playing the 60 HP Ralts for some reason, and turn 1 my opponent Guzmahalid for Lost City Double Dragon Energy and sniped my Ralts into the Lost Zone, and then that game didn't happen much after that. I did include Mr. Mime in my deck to prevent against this exact scenario, but I think it was my starting hand was a little limited. I just didn't get it. I went for Natu instead. My opening hand was a little weird. We had all 3 of my recovery options just in hand off the rip, so Tulip and both Stretchers, and I had to discard 2 of them to get in the game. Opened Quick Ball and the Mysterious Treasure, so I had to discard to get my guys out. yeah, Raging Bolt did its thing, sniped my Natu. It was poor thinking. I was like, my recovery's going away. Let me just bench this Natu to get blown up right away. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. That's tilt will do things to you, kids. But we stayed in there. I swung back a quick knockout with Iron Boulder to stop things from getting too out of hand. Mimikyu. They didn't even Lost City that first time. But when they later got the Lost City, they Lost Zoned my Iron Boulder. I was like, oh, cool, that was my main attacker I wanted to use against these big, basic Dragon-type Pokemon. So we had to get a little creative. Mimikyu pulled a lot of weight here, as Copycat could copy the big dragon's attacks and knock them right back out. I think I copycatted the Drudigan's Revenge attack at some point. And I believe they gusted around the Mimikyu to get something. And then at the end, I was down like 3 prizes to 1, and they had a decent amount of energy on field. I was down 2 to 1, but I knocked out their only energy on field, and they had spent the turn putting a bunch of energy back into their hand. I want to say they used energy retrieval to put some basic in the hand, so I Ono those energy to the bottom of the deck, and I just have to hope and pray they don't hit 1 energy off of this Iono to finish out the game. And they hesitate with their cards in their hand, and I pulled it out. They pulled it out. Mimikyu and Giratina were able to close that one out from behind due to lack of energy. How was that round? I was not expecting to win, so never mentally check out. Sometimes you are in the game when you don't realize. Round 6, I was very happy to see another fighting type after that round. And unfortunately for this poor fighting player, I just raw opened the Wobbuffet to turn off any possibility of them using the Lunar Cycle to draw cards. And the hand was nuts. I can't say anything. This on the slide is what my turn 2 board looked like, and regardless of the type, if you're staring down Psychic and their board looks like this on turn 2, you're probably in for a bad time. So that round went pretty quickly. I was just able to target exactly what they were trying to set up and get going with. And that's the power of Psychic. They say, do whatever you want. Round 7 was the last round. My opponent wanted to ID and get lunch. We figured that there'd probably be a couple of 5/1/1s who bubbled. But we were both willing to take the risk to hope to get into top 8. That guy was playing water type and said he had beaten like 3 Psychics already that day, so I was happy to just take the ID and hope. While they were deck checking for top 8, unfortunately they found an issue with my sleeves. Earlier, after the first round, I noticed how scuffed my poor sleeves were, and Full Grip wasn't selling that color, so I couldn't just replace a few sleeves. I was like, alright, I don't want to buy a whole box of sleeves, so I'm just going to use these ones I have in my bag. Unfortunately, I realized they were a little see-through on the back. Usually not an issue for standard, but in GLC it's pretty common for people to play different languages for funsies, for a little flavor in their deck. I thought about this with the not opaque backed sleeves, and I was like, oh, better take out these 2 Japanese cards I have in my deck. I missed a third. My Night Stretcher was Japanese, and I just didn't realize it. So they counted as a marked sleeve, and they gave me a game loss going into top 8. Like, ooh, that's rough. That's a bummer. I thought of it, and I didn't think hard enough. But always check your sleeves. Since top 8 was a best of 3, I had to go 2-0 in the next 2 games to make up for it. Couldn't lose a game or else my opponent, who's my local Luna. So Luna was playing this Egg Mill grass type deck. A little different from your standard everybody evolves everybody kind of grass decks. Thankfully for me, since she's my local and my friend, we've played this matchup a few times, and I know that my Psychic list has the tools to deal with what the Egg Mill deck can do. Overall, the Egg Mill deck wants to use early item lock through Badoo and the Venomoth to stunt your opponent's setup. They draw cards with their own Sawsbuck, just draw 1 card a turn. They can switch to this old Executor, which is a supporter lock, once they get the Vileplume off, which blocks item cards for both players. So the end goal of Egg Mill is to get Vileplume setup, be swinging with Blockade or whatever attack for item and supporter lock, and then they can run you over with a luxurious caped Torterra. And if your setup was that stunted, that can be extremely hard to deal with, especially without items. So my game plan going into this set, I was like, alright, I want to Iron Boulder early to set up pressure. If I can take enough prizes, I think I'll be able to deal with it. If I can get some of my abilities up, it should be okay. These kind of control decks usually play all the annoying cards that you can think of. They have the Belloba and Bryson Man card to discard the top 3 cards of each player's deck, which can be recycled with Versus Seeker, Cynthia and Caitlyn, and Lusamine. They also play the Lieutenant Surge's strategy to play multiple supporters, which helps with that supporter loop. And they also have ways to discard your energy, trap things active. A lot of options, a lot of things to be aware of. The Gloom also has an ability that can get cards out of your hand onto your bench. But anyway, in game 1, which was really game 2, I guess, I started with the Iron Boulder to put on early pressure. I was really happy to just raw open that. I also had the TM Evo in hand, so I was able to evolve Natu and Inkay. I was hesitant on the Inkay, but my Curlio was prized, and I figured 2 evolutions is probably better than 1. If I'm wary of my resources, I can save them so Malamar doesn't get trapped in the active. And that ended up working out, as I could get my attackers charged up if Torterra were to knock them out. I used the Wobbuffet a couple of times. Huge card for this matchup. If I send up the Wobbuffet, it turns the Vileplume off, so I can have items. But if I retreat Wobbuffet after I use my items and attack with something else, then that turns the Vileplume back on for my opponent. So I definitely used that to my advantage a couple times to keep things going. Unfortunately for Luna, partway through the game 2, she used the Seasonal Blessings on the Sawsbuck to draw a card, but Wobbuffet was active, so unfortunately that was a DPL for looking at the top card of the deck, essentially. And I'll say that 4 prizes was way easier to take against Eggmill than 6. So I was able to clean up that game with my Iron Boulder. But we still had 50 minutes left for the game 3. Really game 2, but game 3. And I had to win this one to keep it going. My start was way less good in the third game. I opened the Mr. Mime and not much else. didn't have my guys. Even with the supporters, I was not finding my guys super quickly, and then she hit me with the Budu item lock. Mr. Mime took 6 itchy pollens to the face before anything happened, really. At which point she gusted around the 6 out of 7 damaged Mr. Mime and brought up my Iron Boulder. Hit it with the Venomoth's Perplexing Powder. Confusing my Iron Boulder and still keeping me an item lock. She went way harder on the item lock this time, and that made it really hard to set up, so I think that was the right line. Iron Boulder was taking the Venomoth to the face. I was like, alright, I have enough of I finally got enough of my guys evolved. I thought this Iron Boulder, the way the math was, I figured it would be worth it to, 1, accelerate the death of this Iron Boulder if it knocked itself out, and 2, if I attacked, or if I hit through Confusion, like, that'd put me in a really good aggressive position prize-wise. And shout out to my Iron Boulder, who powered through 2 Confusion flips to knock out the Venomoth with the Luxurious Cape on it. So I got 2 prizes off of that guy. That was huge. And then Iron Boulder finally died to 1 more Itchy Pollen. I was still under item lock after all that time. Then we had the Torterra to deal with. Nothing I had could knock out the Torterra in 1 hit, so I was honestly okay with 2-shotting it. I could smack it with Giratina and follow up with Wobbuffet's Psychic Assault to leave Luna in ability lock. So we did that 1-2 punch on the Torterra. And then after that, she stuttered a little bit. There was 12 minutes left on the clock. This game was taking a while, and I was like, okay, Luna's ahead on prizes. I can't really get the things I need to get together without a Lieutenant Surge, and I really don't want to allow Luna to find her Lieutenant Surge and get the double supporter turn, so I'd say my play of the tournament was using Giratina's attack to place damage on my own Mr. Mime, knocking it out, and then after she took the knockout, she was ahead. She had 2 prizes, I had 3. So that allowed me to Lieutenant Surge that turn. I set up my attackers. I think I hand disrupted her, and then took out Torterra. She didn't have another attacker. At one point she Guzma Hollowed. I think she meant to grab the Forest to evolve the Torterra back up, but grabbed the Parallel City instead and didn't play it. So I put my own Parallel City down, limited the bench, and that was just about the nail in the coffin for her. She couldn't find another attacker to set up. So, crazy close set, very well played by Luna. That was fun. We talked about the matchup a lot on our drive back. Interesting set, interesting matchup. Honestly, could have gone either way, but yippee! Top 4! This one was streamed on the Full Grip, or the Tricky Gym YouTube live stream, so you can go back and watch this matchup if you want. It was against Jesse Parker's Garbodor box deck, which unfortunately had a pretty good matchup against my traditional Psychic deck. Jesse opened Brillish. My first game hand was terrible. I just attached Pass to Latios, and item lock in this case just destroyed me, because by the time I found my guys to evolve, Garbodor was already up. So we didn't get more than a turn or 2 of abilities before Garbodor's Garbotoxin locked everything down. That darn Frillish. So I scooped game 1 fairly quickly to maybe make the 2-game comeback. Game 2 went a little better. I had a pretty good start with Arvin into TM Evolution, got 2 of my guys up. However, the Malamar was prized. Malamar, Inkay, Mystery Energy, Professor's Letter, Tulip, and U-Turn board were all prized, which, if you would notice, that was pretty much all of my non-item and pivot recovery options. So, and I couldn't search basic energy out of my deck when I finally had items again. It all compounded to be potentially the worst worst combination of prizes in this particular game. I mean, we had the good start with Evolution, and then the next turn I Lilies, Determination, but I didn't any basic energy off of this draw for 8 cards. I was shocked. So after all that, I think I just passed with Iron Boulder active, probably. You can watch the game, but even by the time I got Iron Boulder attacking, Jesse responded with his own Mimikyu to cheaply copycat my Iron Boulder. I was like, you stinker. That's my attack. Be using it. At one point, when I was behind on prices, Jesse Ionos me. And miraculously, I draw into Versus Seeker, Lieutenant Surge, and the Field Blower, I think. So I was able to Field Blower the Garbodor, get my items back, have a Lieutenant Surge turn where I Marnied and, I don't know, did something else. But what really came back to bite me in this game was not having a pivot. I had discarded the Mew earlier off of Parallel City. I don't know, it was a mess. I was really strapped for energy without my Tulip and without access to Malamar to get energy out of the discard. So I really tried to stage a comeback with Natu in particular. If I were able to find enough energy and not have to keep pivoting with my energy attachments, perhaps the 4 prize card double Natu comeback was possible, but Jesse set it up where this Mewtwo was attacking and the Nihilego was on the bench. So if I went down to 2 prizes, Nihilego could copy any of my guys' big attacks and just win the game on the spot, and if I didn't take out Mewtwo, they would also win the game on the spot. So, unfortunate series of events there in top 4, but I thought this Jesse's list was great. The combination of Frillish and Garbodor, item locking and ability locking, and saying that the most common way to get rid of tools, which is Field Blower, does not work under Frillish. It really just allows that deck's board to get fully set up while your opponent struggles. And then if they bump your ability, hey, suddenly you have access to your own Malamar or Xatu to charge up another attacker. So props to the Tricky Gym team for all cooking that up. It was a good list. But that's all I have to say. Thank you guys for listening. I'll probably be at the Phantasmal Flames Full Grip event. So if you're enjoying this GLC content, drop a comment, let us know, and catch you all next time.